Shalom. Today we start the preparation for Parashah of Korah, which is all about the rebellion. Now, we had a very exciting topic this Sabbath, looking at the enemies. So part of this Torah portion, I'm going to complete the last three enemies as part of last week's study, so we can just have all of that as a foundation, because we are going to relate and to interact with these enemies moving forward. Very important to have these foundational things and ideas, specifically how they relate to the end times and what they mean to us. Now, in this parasha, we're going to meet another enemy, which is not an external enemy, it's an internal enemy. Now, this enemy is the enemy from within. Now, you would expect an immature believer in Messiah to be the enemy, to do all sorts of things to try and, derail the plan of Yahweh. But in Numbers chapter 16, you read about Korah, and he's a Kohathite. So that means that he was one of the highest level of Levites that we looked at, I think, 2 or 3 parashas ago, that show us the ultimate level of spiritual maturity and function and authority and anointing within the body of Messiah. Now, this is where the rebellion happened, is at the top, at the leadership. Now, I found something very interesting which I'm not going to share now, but it basically connects to leprosy of the head that we did when we did the study on leprosy. And it was the leprosy that appeared on the skin, specifically the head, and then they had to shave their heads. Now, the word Korah means bold. So you already see a connection there with the shaven head of the leper and the leper's leader, whose name is bold, as in a bold shaven head. And that reveals to us the importance or the danger of that. When we looked at the leprosy of leadership, it was the worst kind, and it had to be dealt with immediately. Otherwise, it can defile the whole camp. So this rebellion of Korah and the consequences of what's happening to him and the 250 men is very radical and severe. And people might say, but that's unfair, or surely they performed a lot of work for Yahweh and that should have counted for something. But in Yahweh's eyes, when he entrusts you and he gives you the anointing and authority and you rebel against him, that is the sin of witchcraft. And what makes you dangerous is because you have knowledge. You have knowledge of Yahweh's things that you will now use against him. It's like someone in a high rank that form part of the enemy, and now they share all the hidden secrets, all the internal secrets with the enemy. And that is exactly what this is about. That's why Yahweh is so serious about dealing with this rebellion. Well, as I said, rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. Witchcraft is basically Satanism or enchantments which directly connect to the Nachash. So we see the Nachash, I think it was the Horites. Yeah, Horites. They are the ones in the wilderness, and their name means a hole as in created by a serpent, and it also means jail, to keep you captive. And that is what this enemy is doing. Now, in Genesis, Yahweh spoke to the Nachash and uttered a prophetic word, and said that you will bite his heel and he will crush your head. And that's to do with the seed of Chava, the seed of the life giver, which is the Mashiach. So he was bitten on the heel. He's Yaakov, which is part of Israel, and he died so that Israel can be saved. But Israel will also be bitten on their akov, because Yeshua said, if I go through suffering, you as my disciples, you will go through suffering as well. So the serpent is out there to get the Kohathites. His main purpose is to attack the leadership, the Kohathites. And that's why there's a lot of prayer required for people in leadership to guard and protect them, because there's many leaders that fell because of disobedience and rebellion, and some of them backslid, and some of them are just now false prophets. I call them scab heads, and they're the ones who still deceive the body of Mashiach, and the blind people follow them and are entertained by their flatteries. So that's the current setting that we're in. If the higher calling you accept, the more of a target you will become for the Nachash. Just be sure of that. And the Nachash will do everything in his power to destroy you, even your family. We read about David. Absalom wanted to destroy the anointed one, King David, the beloved. Yeshua was pursued and was destroyed by his own family, the tribe of Judah and Levi and Benjamin, the Jews of that age, or that day. And his family turned against him and killed him. We see the same with Joseph, how his brothers captured him. They didn't have the vision to see what the plan of Yahweh was, and they wanted to kill him and sold him eventually as a slave. So the Nachash is out there to get us, to pull us in a hole, in a jail, just like Joseph. But the resurrection, like Yeshua went in the grave, will bring you out of that entrapment, out of that hole of the Nachash. And then you will be very powerful if you walk in Yahweh's ways. So that's just what I want to share today, just as an introduction. We're also going to look at the three main reasons for rebellion. So Korah is one of them, which we haven't discussed yet, but there's two other guys mentioned with Korah, and their names depict the other level of rebellion that we are going to look at. So it's going to be a very interesting study. We're going to learn about the enemy within the leadership as we travel through the wilderness. So a bit more in the next talk, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Shalom.